got a blank document. I got rid of what we just drew again, and I'm going to show you a few more features that I believe you will find helpful, as I have when creating schematics for knitting patterns in Inkscape. So I'm going to grab my Bezier tool again and just draw a quick object. I'm going to just draw a very quick square that we can demonstrate these very helpful tools to you in, or on, I should say. And we're going to come up here. Don't want our square to look wonky, so there we go. Whoops. And one of the tools is showing off itself right now. I'm actually going to go real quick and undo that. Okay, I'll show you what just happened in just a moment. So we just made a square, and I'm going to show you some features on Inkscape that you might want to utilize or not, depending. Some of these you definitely will probably play around with, and other ones you might leave alone, like I tend to do. But I want to show you that there are options for your schematic creating process. So I'm going to real quick just come up here, click select and transform objects. And so now I have my square selected, and I'm going to quick close this down because I had this pulled up already. I'm going to show you how to find these special features. We are going to show you the tools real quick on how you can change the color within the object, or for you it might be your hat schematic or a sweater schematic or whatever. So the space that's inside your object, how you can change that color. Also how you can change the color of the lines that create, or the curves that created your object. We're going to show you how to change the color if you'd like. Also how to change the width, so how thick these lines are, and whether they're dashed or not, whether they have, if it's a line, how to put endpoints on them. So yes, these are a lot of features I'm about to show you, but ones you will probably want to know about for schematic creating. So I'm going to come up to the top of my screen and click Object. And the secret stuff is in Fill and Stroke. So we're going to click Fill and Stroke. And if you see over here on the right side, excuse me, I have a little menu that popped up here where I have Fill, Stroke Paint, and Stroke Style as options now. Now you want to make sure before you start playing around that you've selected the object that you want to, apply these different features to. So right now my square is selected, so it will start changing to that. The first option on this list is Fill. Now Fill will change the color within your object. So you can see here there's different options. There's flat color, linear gradient, radial gradient. There's so many options, and you can be creative with these features depending on what you're looking for. If I click flat color, you can see I got black all within my object, or obviously I can change the color around. I can change the hue, the saturation, the lightness, the alpha, the opacity. Anyway, this is an option that Inkscape offers. If you want to create colorful schematics, you may want to just put some color. For instance, if you had maybe a fair motif or some color work, really, the options are limitless to your imagination. But for me, I often don't. I like to keep mine pretty simple and focused on the measurements and the main outline and shape and appearance in terms of the structure of my knitting pattern. So I'm just going to go back, but that is an option. Under Fill, you can be very creative with colors within your knitting pattern schematic. The next section is Stroke Paint. So I'm going to click Stroke Paint, and I have currently, if you see, I have black stroke paint around on my square, but I'm going to click my object again, and I can change that color if I want. I can go to a light blue. I don't recommend that color. Obviously you can't barely see it, but you can do, there's reds, there's purple. I mean, there's so many different things you can play around with. I've got a purple. So I use black to outline my schematics. I find it's very visually clear, and those following my pattern, most people will be able to get a good visual from a black outline. But I want to show you how you can use the stroke paint feature and changing the colors of the stroke to give a very good visual to those following your schematic. So I'm going to click Draw Bezier Tools, and we're going to pretend for a second that this is a little pot holder. I know you're not drawing pot holder schematics very often, but let's pretend. And I am going to pretend that this pot holder, it has a border around it. And I want my schematic to really show that border, not only for those following my pattern to have a good visual representation of what it will look like once it's knit, but also so that I can show the measurements of how wide the border actually is. So I've now drawn the ends. You can now see I've drawn this square within my schematic that's already there. So I have my main part of the pot holder with the border surrounding it. I've already set on my stroke paint this inner part of the pot holder, the main part within the border, is in a lighter gray. And you can see how that gives a very distinguished visual appearance of what the pattern will look like when it's knit. Now you could do this in black stroke, but I do like the lighter gray sometimes when you're marking different parts of the pattern within the schematic. I like to use the black on the outside, and other people sometimes will use this light gray on the inside, and it looks very nice in my opinion.